Let's go to the next section quickly. The gift of structural support. Couple keynotes here. Remember I talked to you about Pete Egoscue the other day? Most people have back pain. Most people have disease in their body, and we've talked about disease coming from toxemia, or a word that we use of poisoning ourselves is called auto-intoxication. We literally poison ourselves by our lifestyle. How many understand what that means based on this morning's or this afternoon's event? Say aye. But there's more than one source. Another source of dis-ease in the body is chemical poisoning. So there are a lot of foods we eat, and more important than the foods, the skincare products you use, the underarm deodorant you have. You cannot believe some of the things that are in there that get into your body and affect your entire lymph system, affect your body's ability to detoxify, and you have to become aware of those things. So chemical poisoning is not just the air and the water. The third source that happens is nerve impingement. Nerve impingement, another source of disease. So you say, well, I ate really well, what's the matter? You may be taking chemicals you don't realize, and you may have nerve impingement, which means, how many are chiropractors in the room? Several chiropractors in the room. They can tell you that your nervous system sends messages, and it does it through your spine, and it does it through a series of connections. Very often through adjusting our body, through doing various things, we have aspects of our body, aspects of our spine that become misaligned, and they put pressure on nerves. When the pressure's on those nerves, what happens? The natural nerve information and flow and energy does not continue. So you've got to be able to support yourself to become realigned so that the natural flow of information and of energy goes through the body. So this can be accomplished through a variety of different disciplines. Chiropractic care is invaluable in this area, and I really support it immensely. Now, not all chiropractors, just like not all anything, are perfect or great. You got to find somebody, you got to shop around and find somebody you really think, talk to them about their principles, what do they believe, do they look at the whole body or just the spine? They just snap you around, they look at nutrition as well. I look for somebody like that. Massage can do this, but also there's certain exercises you can do that will align the body structurally. And Pete Egoscue is one of those people, but there are many different choices. The human body is designed to develop and maintain itself through motion. Through motion. If we are not moving, we are not using certain muscles, and most of us don't move enough, and that's where our structural problems come from. It's not that you're being whacked around so much as that you're not using your whole body. Secondly, human bodies compensate for a lack of motion, and very often to your detriment. So the body's got to, you're not using certain muscles to hold you up, it starts using other muscles. And then what I want you to know is that when the body is properly aligned, the head is over the shoulders, and the shoulders sit directly over the hips, and the feet are pointed straight ahead. So if you turn the page, you'll see what I'm talking about. See what an aligned body would look like, where all the information and energy would come through you. And I want to show you just real quickly a way to find out whether you're aligned or not. Stand up. Shake your body out. Try this real quick. Put your notebook down. Take a deep breath in. Moan. Here's what I want you to do. Just jump up and down 2 or 3 times. Okay? Stop. Look down at your feet and see where they are. See if they're straight ahead or pointed. And then close your eyes and just stand there for a moment. And notice what begins to happen. Stand the way you normally stand. Do you notice anything? Do any of you notice any movement? If you do, say yes. Notice how many people notice movement. You're all waving back and forth. You look like a bunch of waves in this room. Why are you waving? Open your eyes. See if the movement stops. Don't move. Open your eyes and see if you're still moving now when your eyes are open. Look around the room. Nobody's really moving now. You know why? Most of you are so out of alignment that you're constantly readjusting with your eyes. When I take your eyes away, you have nothing to do with it, so you're trying to find your equilibrium. Some of you are real extreme. Some of you are more minor, like this and this and this. Your eyes are open, you don't do that. So if you're moving around, I suggest you go immediately in the next 10 days and you find someone to help you get this aligned. Does that make sense? Because this will make a big difference. It's a really good test for you. And if you didn't feel much motion, do this. Just bring your leg up like so, and then close your eyes and see what happens. Bring your leg up. No, get where you can balance where your eyes are open. Get where you're balanced, your eyes are open, and then close your eyes and see if you stay balanced. Do it with your eyes open. That's good. Then close your eyes. How many do not stay balanced when you close your eyes? Okay? So I can't teach you how to change all this right now. I can teach you this is a gift you must give yourself. How many want to commit within 10 days to seek out this kind of care? Say aye. Sixth gift you got to give yourself is the gift of a directed mind. The gift of a directed mind. Can you use your mind in a way that makes you sick no matter how you eat, how you breathe, etc.? Yes or no? Absolutely. So 7 simple principles, I already filled them in for you. The mind has tremendous power over the body, and a depressed immune system is the result usually of stress. And that's something that's created by your perception, by the way you use your physiology. Anger and resentment are physical poisons to the body. They have a chemical effect. You go in a state of anger, resentment, you literally create poisons and toxicity in the system. So a lot of people don't want to manage their emotions. Number one reason to manage your emotions is so you can stay healthy. Fear compromises your immune system. Physically proven. Somebody's fearful, you can see their T-cell count drop. By the way, what do you think happens to somebody who's feeling kind of sick anyway? They got some of these symptoms, then they go take a test, and they're told they have AIDS. What do you think telling them they have AIDS does to most people's mental set, and therefore their entire immune system? Depresses them, even if they didn't take AZT. The idea that they got something they're going to die from is like pointing the bone, and immediately the body takes over. Depression, when you find somebody who's emotionally depressed, their immune system becomes depressed as well. You get somebody incredibly happy, what happens? Their immune system is stimulated. This is the power of the mind. Your body's constantly renewing itself, but we keep renewing it in the same way it used to be because the same message in our brain is being sent to all the cells in our body. That's why a change in belief systems is a change in physiology. It's a change in the quality of your life. So you've learned a lot just in 2.5 days about how to direct your mind, true? You want to apply that, okay? That's the other gift you can give yourself. Things like meditation, taking time in the morning, just stop and think about what you really want. Any form of focus where you relax the mind and think about what you want versus what you fear will move you in the direction of what supports you. And when you start thinking, I'm sick, but I don't understand because I've been eating well, if you'll notice, is real low on the ladder of what makes you healthy. What comes first? Oxygen, breathing. What comes next? Water. What comes next? The ability to carry that oxygen by having more aerobic power. What comes next? Yes, some food. What else? Got to make sure the structure works. What else? I got to make sure my mind is there. I give myself these 6 gifts, I'm going to have bursts of energy. So then what would bring it down? What would bring it down is poisoning the body. And I want to mention 4 poisons to you, and let's turn to those next. 4 poisons you must dramatically reduce or eliminate. You got to dramatically reduce or eliminate your intake of certain fats and oils. Now, do we need fats and oils in our body, yes or no? Absolutely. So people are going for no fat are crazies, I've already mentioned to you. But what happens is we're living in a society where we're taking in refined, cooked oils on a regular basis that are clogging our system to such an extent that we can't get the blood flow through to ourselves, much less get the nutrients. We don't get the oxygen, and that's where our problems are. That's why 1 out of 2 people in this country die of heart disease. So I thought in this area, rather than tell you a bunch of things, I left you some notes here on the pitfalls of a high-fat diet. I talked to you about how to eliminate it a little bit. I gave you some percentages of the fat of various foods. A sirloin steak, which is 83% fat, right, as opposed to a salad, which is 12%. You do need some, right, to give you an idea. But what I decided to do is I just show you a quick little video of what excess fat does in your body, because you've heard this enough. You don't need to hear it from me. Maybe you just need a little reminder of what it really looks like. Here we go.
Heart attacks, certain cancers, osteoporosis, diabetes. The major diseases of our society may be caused in part by what we eat. One of the physicians who helped me to understand why is Dr. Michael Clapper.
I first woke up, so to speak, when I was working on the anesthesia service, learning how to put people to sleep. And I was seeing my patients for the next day's surgery for coronary artery bypass surgery in order to bypass clogged arteries in their heart. Because it was late at night, I drew the man's blood test, and when I took the blood to the laboratory and had it processed, I couldn't believe my eyes. Now, normally, this liquid layer floating on top of the blood clot is quite transparent. It's a yellow, but quite clear. You can see right through it. The blood in this patient's tube, however, was anything but clear. The serum floating on his clot was thick and greasy white. It looked like glue. In fact, it stuck to the sides of the blood tube when I shook the tube. I went back to the patient. I said, Mr. Phillips, did you eat before you came to the hospital tonight? He said, yes. I said, what did you have? He said, I had a cheeseburger and a milkshake. And when he said that, I realized that what I was looking at in his tube was all the fat in the beef burger, all the butter fat in the cheese, and the butter fat in the ice cream and in the milkshake. And all this fat had oozed out into his blood and actually turned his blood fatty. The next morning, we took Mr. Phillips to the operating room, and I put him to sleep, and the surgeon opened up his chest. And from these arteries, he began pulling out yellow, greasy deposits of fatty material called atherosclerosis.
What you just saw, as gross as that is, what you just saw is the #1 killer of men and women in America. And is that driven by germs? That's lifestyle. Does that mean you can't have any fat? No, it just means if you're going to go have some French fries, make sure 70% of your diet is what? Water content. Does that make sense? If you're going to go have something that's fatty, try to have it with some salad. You're going to have some things, you're going to need some fats, and there's certain essential oils that are invaluable for you. But you've got to make a look and say, is my diet going to clog me or is it going to cleanse me? The things we've already told you up until now will cleanse you like crazy. Then all you got to do is make sure your fat intake is moderate, not no fat or you won't burn it. And not in a position where it's all fat. If you're looking at that water content diet, you'll find it'll handle the fat side right away. Let's go to the next one. By the way, how many are willing to consciously look at your diet for the next 10 days, massively reduce the amount of fat, especially cooked fats, in your diet and see if it makes a difference within 10 days? Say aye. Great. Then turn to the person next to you and say, I'm not going to clog my arteries anymore. Now a fun one. Number 8 of the 10 principles. Number 8 is you must dramatically reduce or eliminate your ingestions of animal flesh. Yes, that's what it really is, animal flesh. Okay? You must reduce or eliminate your ingestion of animal flesh. Now, I want to tell you up front, this is not an animal rights issue for me. At least it didn't start that way. I do care about animals immensely, but that's not why I made the changes I made in my life. This is an issue of nutrition. This is an issue of toxicity. This is an issue of what's happening to your body every single day when you put this in your body. So there's a separate issue which has to do with your heart and how you feel about animals, which I currently obviously embrace as well. But I didn't start out there. I've always cared about animals, but I thought, everything eats everything, it's my turn. So what I found, though, is I made it for nutritional differences, and when I made this shift of reducing meat from my diet, unbelievable shifts in the quality of my life. I used to have unbelievably massive, giant postulates of acne. You see pictures of me from my youth, massive. When I made changes in dairy products and a change I did in reducing meat out of my diet, it disappeared. It disappeared. And I've been going to see this particular place where they would go and they use a surgical instrument on me 3 days a week and push the pus out of those things on my face. Yeah, real delicious. But I kept fighting the cause, but not dealing with the real cause, the source, which is my diet. How many follow? And so I kept going in there. It was an unbelievably painful procedure. It was terrible. I put this stuff on all the time. It was supposed to dry up my face, and it was a nightly ritual for me. And then going to see this doctor, and I dreaded it. It was this metal device they literally pushed down on your face to get that stuff out. It was just like what you saw in the arteries, only it was coming out of my skin, on my face. Right? Same kind of thing. Not as thick, obviously, or as big, but same thing. And all it is waste. What was in there? Waste. What's coming out of there? Waste. What you want to do is cleanse so it doesn't have to come out on your skin anymore. So I put down a couple of things here. One, just simple reminders, and that is the leading killer in the U.S. is heart disease. And as a result of it, we got to know by now where that's coming from. It's certainly from excess fat, no question about that. So the question is, we all know that eating flesh is probably not that intelligent. We know what goes in these animals. Cement dust. Radioactive things are now used also with some of these animals, and you're putting it in your body. I mean, anybody who has any intelligence at all knows that's stupid. But on top of that, it doesn't end with that. When an animal is going to the slaughterhouse, do you think the animal has any consciousness about what's about to happen? Yes, they're not stupid. And guess what floods their entire body at that moment? Adrenaline. And so when you eat the flesh of another animal, that adrenaline floods its entire body. Adrenaline is one of the most potent drugs in the world coming out of another animal. And what you're really doing is eating the fear. You're eating the terror of another being whenever you touch that flesh and put it in your body. But just from a pure biochemical aspect, adrenaline stimulating your nervous system from the death of another animal, probably not the most cleansing thing you could do. Probably not going to give you a lot of energy, not to mention what the fat's going to do. You got to think about what it is you're putting in your body, not just because everybody else does something. Do you want to do something? Everybody else is unhealthy. And I'm not exaggerating. 1 out of 2 with heart disease, 1 out of 3 with cancer. So you don't want to get caught up in that same place. So one of the things you want to think about is people, why would somebody eat meat still after knowing all these things? The obvious answer is people go, where else am I going to get my protein? Right? There you are, ma'am. Yes, I was waiting for that. Where am I going to get that protein? Well, you saw Bobby, you see me, you see people all the time. Where do they get their protein? I'll give you a clue. 48% of broccoli is protein. 48% of broccoli is protein. Lettuce is 28% protein. There's protein in everything you eat. I'll tell you what, do me a favor. Step over to my common sense corner over here. Let's stop for a second. Let's think intelligently instead of like the way we've been conditioned. Think for one moment, just for one moment. If you and I were to try and figure out how much protein we really need, instead of reading the local tables that are put out by the U.S. government, which say 60 grams of protein. Now, to give you an idea of 60 grams of protein, what that really does, there's no way your body can digest that. So I called the government 4 years ago when I first started doing this and said, how can you say 60 grams when around the world they say anywhere from 12 grams to 27? But in the U.S. they say 60. That's protein poisoning. Your body can't deal with it. And I talked to the top guy there, who, believe it or not, is also named as Robbins, right? It's a true story. And he said, well, Tony, he said, the way we do it is we basically, as we do a sampling of the society, and we find out how much protein people eat overall, and we do the average. So what they do is they take a sick society where 1 out of 2 people die of heart disease, 1 out of 3 have cancer, and then they average it out, and that's what you need. He said, it is true, there have been a lot of studies that show you may need as little as 18 to 20 grams a day. So that's absolutely true. He said, but we don't want to take any chances and tell people too little. That, along with the Meatpackers Association lobbying, probably assists them in keeping it at 60 grams. So step in my common sense corner. If you and I were trying to figure out how much protein we need and we had nobody to help us, and we just had to actually think like humans, then what would you and I do to figure out when we need the most protein? Protein is built basically for the growth and development and the maintenance of tissue. So when are you going to have not just maintenance, but the most growth of tissue? At what stage of life? As a baby. There's never a time when you're going to be building more tissue, more growth than as a baby. So then would it make sense that we could say to ourselves, if we had nobody to help us, hey, common sense, what did God create for babies to consume as their food when they're growing more than any time in their entire lifespan? Mother's milk. Does that make sense? How many agree with that? Say aye. Then would it make sense that if we analyze mother's milk to find out the amount of protein content in it, since that's the only food the baby's supposed to have, then we'd probably have a good idea of what kind of foods to look for that would mirror that. Does that make sense? How much protein is there in mother's milk? 50%? 10%? 80%? 12? 1.2 to 1.6%. That's how much is in mother's milk. Which, by the way, the only food that mirrors that really well is fruit. That's right, fruit. That's about the protein content you'll find, for example, in watermelons, what you'll find in various fruits, high water content foods. That's when you're growing the most on earth. Listen, the protein content that your body needs, let me tell you this. There's an old phrase that says if you tell a lie big enough, loud enough, long enough, sooner or later people believe you. You know who said that? Hitler. He was talking about protein intake. I'm telling you, people have been telling this lie for so long. Now, it's gotten better in recent years, and now the pendulum is thrown and everybody's eating massive carbohydrates, right? Trying to avoid fats. But, of course, carbohydrates convert to fats when you have too much of it. The point of the matter is you have enough protein in your normal day-to-day life. If you eat anything even slightly alive, there's protein in it. Come back over here again. Common sense corner. Strongest animals in the world. What are some of them? Gorillas. Gorillas got muscles that are huge, unbelievably powerful. They can take bamboo this big and snap it like a twig with their hands. What do they eat? Fruit in bamboo leaves. Where are they getting these rock-hard muscles? Where are they getting them? Because there's protein in everything you consume. The most potent time of growth is as a child. Mother's milk is the perfect miracle of example, and all you have to do is stop worrying about it. You don't want to go eat toxicity and pure poison out of this fear that you're not getting enough of a nutrient. Now, there used to be a lady named Mrs. Lappy who wrote this book called Diet for a Small Planet. And she was a great lady because she wanted people to be vegetarian, and she knew they were worried about proteins. So she put together this book showing how you could combine all these proteins, vegetable proteins, to finally get all your key amino acids. And I used to, in those days, just attack her like it was going out of style. Because what she made it is so difficult to be vegetarian, and she was dead wrong. And about 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago, she came out and reversed everything and said I was wrong. She said, I was just trying to make sure I pleased the traditional people that I was dealing with in business, in her healthcare business. And she said, I thought it was providing, I thought it was necessary, but all the research shows, including research done at Harvard, that the body recirculates your proteins. And the more efficient your body is, the less it needs. How much protein you need? Enough to replace the sloughed off skin, the loss of hair, and what goes out in your feces and urine. That's it. Tiny amount. Too much protein, you get excess nitrogen in your body. What does excess nitrogen do? It makes you unbelievably tired. Meat eating makes you tired. You take those vegetarian office workers who don't even work out, they're not really especially healthy, they just don't have all that excess nitrogen. You bring in this great bodybuilder side by side, they've done the studies both at Yale and Harvard. No way in a million years. Guess who wins every time? Vegetarian office workers. They have much more endurance because they don't have all this excess nitrogen in their body. Arnold Schwarzenegger, pretty strong big guy, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger himself said, people who get into bodybuilding are all into this protein thing, and he said, I'm not into it. He said, what you need is about 1 gram of protein for about every 2 pounds. Think about that. He's talking about a diet of broccoli would cover that. That's what we're talking about. It's an illusion. So don't do it for protein because it isn't going to give it to you. And excess protein will make you sick, no question about it. Plus, I have to tell you 2 things about this. When you eat meat, you eat chicken, and you taste that taste and go, that's really great. I just want you to know what gives meat its taste. Uric acid. Now, uric acid, many of you have heard about uric acid because it's related to gout, right? And it's related, some of you have, what's the word I'm looking for? Some of you have like pain in your joints, arthritis. And you know about uric acid then, right? And you have about 16 grains of uric acid, an average serving of meat. 16 grains. The body cannot deal with it. The most it can deal with is about 6 grains in a 24-hour period of time. You got more than your body can take care of. It's tremendously poisonous to the body. It breaks the whole system down and your immune system. But just forget the scientific part. Just think about what it is. What gives meat its taste is uric acid. Uric acid is the urine acid of the animal. Yes, that's what gives meat its taste. That's a fact. When you're eating that meat and you go, just think, love this urine, because that is what's giving its taste. If you doubt it, who here is Jewish, follows the Jewish faith? Come on, there's some Jewish faith know this because in their laws it says you got to have meat that's kosher, where they drain out all the blood to try and get the most of that urine out of the bloodstream of the animal before they eat it, and try to eat some kosher food without any spicing. It's not going to happen. It tastes like hell. When you get that taste and you think it's so good, that juicy taste, you are literally eating the urine of that animal. You go have some soup, that old Campbell soup, have yourself some nice vegetable soup with some meat in it. Just think, good. Campbell's, urine, good. It's urine that is giving you the taste. That is an absolute fact. That's it. So if you like meat, you're eating the urine. Period. And it doesn't end there. No. When an animal's alive, just like in your body and mine, we have something called osmotic pressure. Osmotic pressure is that pressure that keeps everything in the body where it belongs. When an animal dies, the osmotic pressure disappears, as you might guess. And so what happens is putrefactive germs, the minute the animal dies, the osmotic pressure's gone, that are normally in the colon, now flood all of the flesh of the animal. And what tenderizes meat is putrefactive germs. That's what tenderizes it. In other words, get to understand this. You don't go kill an animal. Most of you don't go, want to have lunch, honey? Great, let's kill this animal. Whap! And then cook them. It's too tough. You got to tenderize the animal. You got to let the animal age. You got to go through that whole process. It doesn't happen instantaneously because the tissue is too strong in the animal, right? Especially beef. So you let it wait, and what happens is these putrefactive germs now secrete through every cell of the animal, and they begin to break down the tissue so it's soft enough to be cooked and eaten. I want you to understand what this is. Putrefactive germs are colon germs. Colon germs. Anybody here is a doctor? Contradict me. It is a physiological fact. I'm making it real clear to you what you're really eating. Do you get this? If you go have food and you like the taste, you've been trained to like that taste is the urine. If you're able to chew it, it's been tenderized by the colon germs. That's what you're putting in your body. Plus, it's fatty on top of it, which is going to clog yourself just like that. Plus, you're taking in the terror of an animal that was killed. But other than that, it's pretty good stuff. Now, by the way, does meat give you energy, yes or no? No, the body uses carbohydrates, fruits first, then fats, then proteins. It's the last thing for energy, so it doesn't give you energy. But if I don't eat meat, won't my bones get weak? All the research shows vegetarians have the strongest tensile strength of all because the acid that comes from trying to digest these proteins leaches calcium from your body and weakens your bones. So it doesn't make your bones any stronger. And the last thing I put down here is, are there any well-known vegetarians that are fairly intelligent, or is it just a bunch of weirdos? Well, how about Leonardo da Vinci, Pythagoras, Socrates, Plato, Benjamin Franklin, Disraeli, Edison, Schweitzer, Gandhi, and Einstein, to mention a few people to have good company with. All right? So those are the notes on that. And what I'd like to do now is you might say, well, what about chicken? Is chicken meat? Not only is chicken meat, but it's worse. Worse is a pretty hard thing to say. It's equally bad. It's like, would you rather be punched in the face or kicked in the stomach? I don't know. But let me tell you why. When you're eating chickens, what happens is the way they're processed, those putrefactive germs not only go through their whole body, but in the process of processing chickens, they get salmonella, they get all kinds of other things at a huge rate. Like anywhere from 38% of the entire chicken supply. You'll see the statistics, you'll hear them. It's like insane. You'd think they'd shut down every chicken place there was. They don't. But also, secondly, they create in the processing what's called fecal soup that basically bathes the chicken. And this is consistent. 12% of the price of the chicken you're paying for is fecal soup. It is that putrefactive germs, colon germs, taking up the weight that you're paying for on top of it. 35% is the average in the chicken industry for salmonella poisoning. 35% of the chickens. Some of the plants are as much as 60% across the nation. Go get some finger-licking good putrefactive germs for yourself. Add a little urine in there, and you're off and running. Now, fish. Fish is one of the few flesh foods that we are omnivores. If you look at the way the body is functioned, you can have fish. I'll talk about the kind of fish you can have. But here's the difference. If you look at a carnivore, they have different teeth than we do, don't they? Radically different teeth. They're designed for tearing. Carnivores have a different jaw structure than ours, radically different. We're designed to crunch something, break it down slowly. Our small intestine, which is what absorbs all your nutrients, is almost 20 feet long. In a carnivore, it's tiny because there's so much acid it gets in and instantly out, or it would hurt even that animal. We are made to absorb things over a long period of time for digestion, and you can't do that with a lot of acid. But we have some elements that allow us, we are omnivores, which means we can eat what is available and survive it and be okay with it. Fish is something that has a specific type of oil and fats in it that are core fatty acids that are available and actually useful for your body. So if you're not going to be a total vegetarian, which, by the way, there are lots of vegetarians who are unhealthy, it's not because they don't eat meat. It's because of all the other sugar, carbohydrate, and acid things that they consume under the guise of I'm healthy because I'm a vegetarian. Or dairy products, which we're going to get to next, which is horrible, absolutely horrible. So if you choose between being a vegetarian who eats all kinds of dairy products and sugars and carbohydrates, et cetera, and creates acid in your body, or being a person that eats fish and you have mostly 70% water content, it's your one concentrated food, you'll do just fine. But what you want to get is a clean source, right? And the one kind of fish that you'll love hearing, probably not, is not great for you are the bottom dwellers, which is lobster, because what they do is they eat the waste that is now all over the bottom of our oceans. So that's one I know some of your favorites, but that's the worst. It's the most concentrated. But what you want are deep water, deep ocean water fish are ideal. So if you want to have swordfish or you want to have salmon even, those foods are fine, again, but they still are very acidic. Does that make sense? But you're not going to not have acid. What you're going to do is make sure that 70% is that. So what would you have with your fish? Big salad and what else? Some vegetables, right? Somebody says some lemon. Okay, good. That's good. That's good thinking, sir. I like the way you're thinking. That's good. Okay? Does that make sense to you? If you're going to eat beef, I don't want to leave you out in the cold. I love you, and I hope you'll make the shift. I hope you make it for yourself. I hope you also make it for the planet. Because I'll give you some statistics in a second, and you'll see what it does to be able to raise beef, how it totally absorbs our resources. We've gone from 1 billion people on the planet 100 years ago to 6 billion. We're going to have 12 billion in the next 30 years. We're going to double the size of the planet right now, all competing for the same resources. And here's what it takes, just to give you an idea, I'll give the statistics, for us to be able to raise cattle. First of all, livestock in the U.S. consume enough grain and soybeans to feed the entire human population of the United States 5 times over each year. Entire population. Secondly, if you think about it, for every 16 pounds of grain and soybeans that we give to cattle, we get back 1 pound of beef. That doesn't sound like a very good equation, does it? For every 16 pounds of grains or soybeans, which is food, that we give to an animal so we can eat their beef, we only get 1 pound of beef back, even if it was good for us, and it's not. Another interesting statistic. If all of us in this room, and other Americans as well, were to reduce their meat consumption by just 10%, like not give it up, just reduce it by 10%, we would free 12 million tons of grain annually for human consumption. Those 12 million tons would feed the entire 60 million people who starve to death each year. If all we did was cut 10%. A child dies of starvation every 3 seconds. That's how it is, every 3 seconds. Now, if we did this, that doesn't mean someone's going to distribute the food to them. It's not that simplistic, and I understand that. But just think of it, just from a standpoint of consciousness. Do you know how much steak would cost here in California if we had to pay for, if we didn't, as a government, subsidize the water expenses? Do you know what a calf takes in? 1,000-pound steer takes in enough water to float a destroyer. That's how much water they consume. More than half the water that's used in California used for meat production, and we're not a big beef-producing state. And we all subsidize that, because otherwise it would be $35 a pound for hamburger in the state of California. All your money is going to give these farmers water really cheap. Well, here in California, in Southern California, we've had times we get our water from somewhere else. And we're using it up. It's just not efficient. It's not intelligent. To give you an idea, we're losing our rainforest. We're losing our topsoil. The rainforest that we lost down in South America is primarily going for beef production, which is sold primarily to McDonald's and Burger King. In fact, there have been many groups that have gone on massive strikes to get them to buy their beef from somewhere else, because the soil down there is the kind of soil that you grow a rainforest in. While you may think it'd be really rich, it's very thin. And so they tear it up, and then it's worthless. And then they cut down more of the rainforest, which affects the global warming of the whole planet. There are so many elements that are tied to this. It's not like there's one thing that happens. 1 acre of land can produce 20,000 pounds of potatoes, but only 165 pounds of beef. We're not using our resources intelligently. So if you care about animals, if you care about the planet, if you care about your children, if you care about yourself, if you don't want to be stupid, I know that sounds harsh, but you can't be smart and take in the terror of other beings, and on top of it, put urine and feces germs in your system and hope to be healthy. But I'll tell you how I feel soon. But I hope you feel it from my heart, because it's not a judgment thing. I don't care. I want you to enjoy yourself. But I don't think this is something that you're going to enjoy if you wake up one day with a heart attack. You're not going to enjoy it one day waking up with cancer. You're not going to enjoy it one day where you just feel like hell and you don't even know why, and you think it's some germ you picked up at the office. You polluted your bloodstream consistently until finally it bit you at a level that's extremely uncomfortable or dire. If you're going to eat beef, after all I've said to you, do 3 things. 1, get a semi-clean source. When I say semi-clean, at least make sure it's like food that's raised, cattle that's raised in a natural environment, and where they aren't giving them hormones and cement dust and radiation and so forth. Make sure you're getting that. And sometimes you can go to health food stores and they'll guarantee that. Although there have been interesting investigations, like they'll have these things or a picture of these beautiful little hens that are supposed to be out, in the farm doing it. And they go there and do investigation, and you'll see that they're all lined up in these cages, one on top of another, like high rises, and they can't even move, and they cut their beaks off, and they sit in there and they fill them full of hormones because they won't grow in the dark, and they keep them in the dark the entire time. Or, if you think about what is veal. Veal is a baby cow. It's a baby calf. See, veal, they want it to be that certain color and texture and that flesh that's not very strong yet. So what they do is they take this baby male cow and they stick him in a box and they chain him so he can't move, and they keep him in the dark and they make him anemic. So that he'll be that soft little texture you call veal. It's the most inhumane thing you can imagine. There are only a few things I get upset about. That one takes me over the edge. I just will not support anybody eating veal. That one I can get in your face about. Because that's like, can you imagine someone taking your child from you, sticking in a box for the rest of their life, slowly bleeding them so they stay anemic, so that their texture of their meat would be really thin and would have a certain color and texture to it, so someone else can say, I'm having something really special? It's just inhumane. I don't know how you can really be in a place where you know that and do it. Not knowing, I can understand doing it, but you won't have that reason anymore. Okay, so it's up to you what you do from now on. Okay? So if you're going to eat beef for whatever reason, get a semi-clean source. 2, eat it a maximum of once a day. Your body cannot take that much uric acid put in your body. Your body can handle about 6 grains of uric acid. You get a minimum of 16, upwards of 30 grains of uric acid in just the average piece of steak. So if you're doing more than one of those things a day, there's no possibility long-term for health. Gout is directly related to uric acid, by the way. So if you got gout, I already know what your challenge is. Pure acid, it's coming from animal products that are coming black through your bloodstream. It's the urine acid coming through the system and creating a change in the metabolism of your own body. Third thing to do is, if you eat it once a day, if you're getting a clean source, for God's sakes, properly combine it and get lots of green vegetables and things around it. There's some things I eat that are not as pure, not as good. That isn't one of them. I don't eat beef, I don't eat chicken, anything like that. But if I'm going to have fish or something like that, I always have a big salad, big vegetables with it. I alkalize, allow myself to go through it, and I get something that's valuable from that process. Or if I'm going to have something like the other day, it's my birthday, and everybody got all this stuff, and there was an oatmeal cookie there, and I thought, I'm going to have the oatmeal cookie. Why'd I have it? Hadn't eaten all day, and I was starved. It was there. It was convenient. I thought, and I went, and I went over and drank some green drink first to balance it out. And then I started biting the oatmeal cookie, and after the green drink, the cookie didn't taste for crap. Threw it away. So it's like, it's thinking about balancing it. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just trying to inform you so you can make an intelligent decision. Because when you leave out these doors, you're on your own. And I'm not going to be here to be the person to tell you, and you're not going to want to hear it. So really what today was really about is getting a second opinion. Like really thinking about what you want for your life. Are there better ways to entertain yourself than just food? And if it's food, why not get more creative and find ways to get food that you'll enjoy that's good for you and be entertaining with it? I understand that. But boy, there's a huge price to making food your emotional balancer or food your source of entertainment. And especially if you're doing it with things that are pure acid.
This session continues on the next CD.